The AI death cult. Prompt: all the big players are seeing their free cash flow drop precipitously. If this continues, the existence of those businesses will be threatened. How can this be stopped? What is the alternative path for AI development? Definition: in financial accounting, free cash flow is the amount by which a business's operating cash flow exceeds its working capital needs and expenditures on fixed assets. Response: the term AI death cult has become a shorthand in financial circles for the recursive spending spiral where big tech companies, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, are forced to spend billions on infrastructure just to keep pace with each other, even as the immediate return on investment, ROI, remains speculative. As of early 2026, the data confirms your observation. Capital expenditure, CapEx, for the Big Five is projected to exceed $600 to $650 billion this year. This has pushed capital intensity, CapEx as a percent of revenue, from a historical 10% to over 25% for several players, causing a significant squeeze on free cash flow, FCF, and forcing even cash-rich giants like Alphabet to issue massive debt. 1. How can the spending spiral be stopped? The current trajectory is often described as an arms race, where no one wants to be the first to stop. However, 3 circuit breakers could halt the spiral. The show me the money pivot. Markets have already begun punishing companies that spend without showing incremental revenue. If AI-enabled revenue, currently only about 4% of spend, doesn't scale to a 10% plus return, boards will be forced by shareholders to enact austerity measures, slashing data center budgets to protect dividends and buybacks. Infrastructure saturation. We are hitting physical limits. Power grids in Northern Virginia and Dublin are at capacity. If companies cannot secure the gigawatts required for the next generation of superintelligence labs, the spending will naturally plateau regardless of ambition. Model efficiency peaks. If we reach a point of diminishing returns where a $100 billion model is only 2% better than a $10 billion model, the economic incentive to build larger clusters vanishes. 2. The alternative path. Lean AI. If the death cult of massive centralized clusters collapses, the industry is already prepping a plan B focused on sustainability and pragmatism. A. Small language models, SLMs. Instead of one model to rule them all, the trend is shifting towards specialized SLMs, like Microsoft's Phi or Google's Gemini Nano. Qwen 3.59b and IBM Granite 8b are good. The path, fine-tuning a 7 billion parameter model on proprietary data, is 100 times cheaper than querying a frontier LLM. The benefit? Lower latency, better privacy, and a massive reduction in electricity costs. B. On-device, edge, AI. Moving the inference, the thinking process, away from the cloud and onto your phone or laptop. The path, using dedicated NPU, neural processing unit, chips in consumer hardware. The benefit, it shifts the electricity and hardware costs from the provider, big tech, to the consumer, immediately fixing the provider's FCF problem. C. Decentralized AI, DAI. Using blockchain or peer-to-peer networks to aggregate idle compute power from around the world. The path, projects that allow developers to rent GPU space from a global network of smaller providers. The benefit, breaks the monopoly of the Big Five and creates a more elastic, market-driven price for intelligence. 7 summary table. The Great Pivot. Feature. Current death cult path. Alternative lean path. Model size. Trillions of parameters. Billions. Task specific. Compute. Massive centralized data centers. Edge devices and decentralized webs. Financing. Massive debt and FCF depletion. Sustainable ROI-focused operations. Goal. general artificial intelligence, measurable productivity gains. The existential threat to these businesses isn't the technology failing, it's the math failing. The shift from bigger is better to efficient is better is likely the only way to save their balance sheets. Follow-up. Would you like me to analyze which specific tech giants are most at risk of negative free cash flow based on their 2026 spending plans? As of early 2026, the AI death cult phenomenon has transitioned from a theoretical concern into a balance sheet crisis. The Big Four, Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta, are projected to spend a collective $650 billion on capital expenditures this year, a 60% increase over 2025. Here is an analysis of which players are currently most at risk of their math failing and who is positioned to survive the squeeze. 1. The high-risk zone, Amazon and Meta. These two are currently under the most intense pressure because their massive spending is clashing with thinner margins or wavering market share. Amazon, AMZN. The FCF danger zone. Amazon has dropped the biggest bombshell of 2026, guiding for $200 billion in CapEx. The risk. Analysts predict Amazon is the most likely to see negative free cash flow, FCF, in 2026. Its operating cash flow, approximately $140 billion, is simply not growing fast enough to cover a $200 billion bill. The pressure. Unlike Alphabet, Amazon operates on thinner retail margins, approximately 11%. It is betting entirely on AWS re-acceleration to justify the spend. But if enterprise AI adoption lags, Amazon faces a massive liquidity crunch. Meta, META, the efficiency paradox. Meta has boosted its 2026 CapEx guidance by 73% to roughly $115 billion to $135 billion. The risk? While AI has improved its ad targeting, Meta's share of the enterprise LLM market has plummeted from 16% to 8% in the last 2 years. The squeeze FCF is projected to decline by 90% this year. Meta has already begun pausing share buybacks to divert every cent into H100/B200 GPU clusters, a move that has historically signaled deep internal stress to investors. 2. The vulnerable giant. Microsoft, MSFT. Microsoft is in a unique position where its primary bet is also its primary liability. The risk. Microsoft's OpenAI partnership is under scrutiny. OpenAI now accounts for roughly 45% of Azure's commercial remaining performance obligations. If OpenAI struggles or diversifies its cloud providers, Microsoft is left with billions in stranded specialized infrastructure. The squeeze. In Q2 2026, Microsoft's FCF already fell by 9.3% despite growing revenues, as cloud margins compressed from 70% to 67% due to the astronomical cost of running these models at scale. 3. The relative safe havens, Alphabet and Apple. These two are navigating the death cult with significantly more breathing room. Alphabet GOOGL. The in-house edge. Alphabet is spending $175 billion to $185 billion, but it has a secret weapon, TPUs, tensor processing units. The advantage? Because Google designs its own AI chips, it doesn't have to pay the NVIDIA tax, the 70% plus margins NVIDIA charges. This allows Alphabet to maintain a net profit margin of 32%, even while outspending its rivals. The outlook. It is the only hyperscaler likely to remain comfortably FCF positive while spending over $150 billion. Apple, AAPL. The non-believer. Apple is the ultimate outlier, spending only about $12 billion to $15 billion on CapEx, a fraction of its peers. The strategy. Apple is letting the others build the expensive foundations while it focuses on on-device integration. The result? Apple is projected to produce $120 billion plus in FCF this year, which it can use to buy back shares while its competitors are forced to issue debt. Summary of 2026 financial health. The company, 2026 CapEx guide, FCF outlook, primary risk, Amazon, $200 billion. Negative. Massive infrastructure/retail margin mismatch. Meta, $125 billion. Mid. Minus 90% year over year, losing enterprise AI market share. Microsoft, approximately $100 billion plus. Stagnant/declining. Over-reliance on OpenAI. Margin compression. Alphabet, $180 billion. Mid. Positive. Regulatory breakup threats. Apple, approximately $15 billion. Strongly positive. Lags in frontier model capabilities. Do you have trouble researching information about your company? You know it's in there somewhere. You just can't find it. Or you can't make sense out of it. Or there is so much you don't know where to start. Search fails when you use the wrong keywords. You can't ask questions like you can with Chrome or Edge. I can help you solve that problem with advice, research, and training. Contact me for a free 30-minute consultation. If you get value from these blogs, please consider joining my Patreon as a member at the $2, $4, or $8 level. https://www.patreon.com/Steve Hovland.